So as some of you may know already, I'm making a new FNAF fan game called Into the Midrift. Go follow that game on GameJolt, by the way. Even after I said multiple times over 2 years that I was probably not going to return to the FNAF fan game scene. So what exactly changed, and how did I get here today? Well, we need to rewind the clock all the way back to late June of 2022. I had just gotten back from VidCon, which you can hear about in my VidCon video, and also I just finished my second video where I reviewed my old FNAF fan games. At this point, I had reviewed basically every single game I made when I was a young teenager, and I was ready to just move on to other videos and projects. But then I got thinking, if I made a FNAF fan game today, what would it look like knowing what I know now about game development? I could probably make a better story than whatever the hell I was trying to do before. I could stop stealing assets, make it in Click Team. I could also try some cool new mechanic ideas. God damn it. So after July just started, I finally decided that I was going to start making a new FNAF fan game. But what would this one be about? I felt that my comeback to FNAF fan game creation should be semi-nostalgic, and I wanted it to be a massive crossover of all my old works. Since most people now knew most of the characters from my old games from the videos I made, I decided to take the most unique characters I had, but modified them stylistically to look better and even more original, and render them with completely original 3D assets. The thing is, I don't know how to 3D model that well yet, so I got Wajahat Games to help with this part of the project. You may know them because they were the ones that modeled my Toy Cherry character, and they did a great job on that. So I brought them on and they did the other characters. And after rendering them out, they looked great. We made all our models in Blender, since it's super easy to model, rig, and do animations in. And I suggest that if you are going to make a game, use Blender for the best results on character models. I also brought along Kimaru in order to create the rigs for the new characters, which helped me animate all of the animatronics effortlessly. I can now animate stuff like this. They both did an amazing job realizing these characters. We also got a bunch of voice actors for these characters, all of which I'm going to list here to also bring more life to these characters when they kill you on the game over screen. So thank you guys for helping out. Now that we had the characters fleshed out, we actually needed an environment for them to inhabit. I was struggling to find someone to help with this since I didn't really have a personal connection who could do this sort of thing. But then Wajahat, out of nowhere, invites the Merciful Guard onto the team. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Guard actually was the environment designer for Chompers. Yes, the cancelled FNAF Fanverse game Chompers. We had a guy who worked on that join our team, which is crazy. Just a side note, he was not involved with any of the drama that surrounded that game. Just wanted to make that clear. And he did an amazing job of making the environments based on what I gave him. I'm honestly speechless at the quality of the rooms that he gave us. He did a great job. So at this point, we had all the models rendered for the game, but now we needed to actually put everything together. I was trying to learn Click Team in order to program the game myself, and I know it's easier than other programming languages, but I was also trying to make more videos, and I also had college, and I also got a job, so I elected to hire someone to do it in order to get the game done in a timely fashion. I put out a bulletin looking for Click Team developers, and the god himself, Uncle John, came in to save the day. At first I was a little cautious about him since he said he never made a FNAF fan game before. He only has made visual novels. However, not only did he do a great job making a FNAF fan game, but his expertise in visual novels lent itself to one of the best UI designs I have ever seen in a FNAF fan game. I don't mean to brag, but when I first saw how clean and animated all of the menus looked, I was speechless. John just makes everything feel super smooth and responsive with little animations here and there that really just makes the UI pop. It's so good. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he developed the Google Pixel UI at this point, to be honest. And now is probably a good time to talk about the mechanics I wanted in this game, since it would be the differentiating factor, aside from the story, that would make this game stick out. I went out of my way to really try and do new things to make this game more interactable than most others. We are never going to get VR levels of interactivity, but I at least wanted every mechanic I introduced to make it feel like you were in control. There are very few RNG game ending moments due to a lot of the decisions I made, so let's get started with those. First, I wanted to expand on FNAF 3's remote door system by letting the player control every door in the facility. Now, this may seem game-breaking, but I feel like I balanced it in a way that makes sense. First off, only one door in the cams can be closed at a time, so you can't just block off the entry points to your office and then just wait out the time. By night 2, there will be a pathway for an animatronic to enter your office, but you have the ability to stall them. I also introduced a sneaky little thing called the cheese variable, which is a failsafe for anyone trying to exploit or cheese this mechanic. Basically, I realized that you could effectively keep the animatronics away from your office by spamming 2 doors back and forth, and thus have each animatronic's movement check fail. If you try to do that, that's lame, so I added this variable which gets higher and higher the more you do this, and allows the animatronics to move anyways, even if the door in front of them is effectively closed. Let me explain how this works technically in a simple way. These numbers are by no means exact, but it works like this. By default, your cheese value is 0, which means every time you use a door, your cheese variable goes up by 1, and the cheese variable's maximum value is 2. Additionally, this variable decreases by 0.1 every second. If your variable is within the range of 0 and 1, then the game considers that door to be true and blocks the movement. If it's above 1, then it considers it false, and the animatronic can move anyways. Again, the numbers aren't exact, and if you play the game properly, this shouldn't be an issue. But if you spam the doors like this, you'll be making the situation worse for yourself. Trust me, I think I would know. Additionally, you have a door in front of your office that you can use in order to block an enemy at the very last second, and this door can be closed alongside the cam doors. However, it has a cooldown, so you could leave yourself open to a jump scare afterwards. Second, I needed a way to get players off the cams to make things more difficult, so I introduced enemies that stay in your office that you need to deal with using a taser. Each enemy that can show up in your office have multiple levels of aggressiveness, which determines when they will strike, and in order to stop them, you need to use your taser in order to get rid of them. However, your taser can only have 3 shots at any given time, at which point each charge needs to reset over a period of time. So you now not only need to manage multiple enemies, but also your taser charge as well. This is actually kind of a mechanic I lifted from my old game, Survive Freddy 3, but instead of tasing yourself, you now attack the animatronics. Finally, I wanted there to be a way that you could influence how the animatronics behave, so I introduced the Remote Reality Manipulator. This is the in-game name for what is effectively a difficulty adjuster, and this allows you to change the aggressiveness of the animatronics that appear in the cams. The way the AI for the camera-based animatronics is pretty similar to the ones in the mainline FNAF games, basically having move checks based on their difficulty and then a random number. There is a really good video on how this works here. In a simple way of explaining how things work, imagine that each night in story mode has a predetermined custom night loadout, which determines the difficulty of the characters, 1 being easy and 20 being very hard. What this RRM mechanic allows you to do is basically change the value in the middle of the night in-game, so you can make a really hard night easier. Now, I added some calibration jank so that you could accidentally make the animatronics more aggressive by messing it up, but if you use this mechanic properly, you could really make the later nights much easier. I actually elected to make the difficulty spike even steeper in the later nights due to this mechanic, since I wanted to incentivize the use of this feature. It doesn't work on every animatronic though, only the ones in the cams, and you need to have a single animatronic isolated in a room otherwise it won't work. I also wanted to add some personalization into the custom night mode. Obviously you can change the difficulty to your liking and enable other special characters that weren't available in the story mode. However, I also added in unlockable skins so that you could personalize your custom night game. Each character has 3 skins, their default, a personalized alternate skin which can range from ooh to and then each character has a gold skin, all of which can be unlocked by completing certain objectives in the post-game. Plus, they can also be linked to your Game Jolt. We are also planning a custom night skin option for a few characters and an update post-launch, so keep an eye out for that. Now we had everything planned out. Mostly everything was there, but now we needed to test it to fix bugs because honestly, this thing was a wreck. It didn't crash or anything, but a lot of the controls and the mechanics were just super broken by default. And then the Mac version would just not launch, so we sought out testers. Everyone here graciously took time out of their days in order to play this game, and it helped out a bunch in finding bugs for us. Funny enough, I kinda messed up the application process and forgot to mention a minimum spec for computers playing this game, which is at least 8 GB of RAM and an i3 Intel CPU. One of our testers could barely get the game to run because they only had this piece of shit laptop. So whenever we sent him a new file, his PC would just... Luckily, this did give us some insight on what happens when you are below spec, and it also helped us make some optimization improvements so the game is not as resource intensive. Like before our first patch, the game ran at like 5 FPS on his computer. After an update changing how time is measured, being based on the system clock rather than an in-game based one, it went up to 15 FPS. Still unplayable, but hey, it's something. And after a few months of testing, we reach where we are now. After a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, we have our game finally coming out. Whenever this date is. I'm writing this on a plane and I have no idea if we are going to meet my initial August release window. I have to thank the team again for helping me make this game a reality. I couldn't have done it without you guys, seriously. Thanks to my beta testers for playing through stupid bullshit so that the game wasn't broken at launch. And thank you guys the viewer for inspiring me to take another stab at making a FNAF fan game. I hope I hit the mark this time and you guys enjoy a quality FNAF experience. Hi everyone. Ooh, Mike's mic quality is better. Yeah, I actually figured out how to use this microphone, like, after I recorded the majority of this video. Also, I'm recording this part because I wanted to tell you guys that this video was meant to come out, like, a week before the game released, but then, like, a lot of just life stuff got in the way, so this got delayed, like, a whole month later, but it's done now. So yeah, the game's been out for a month, and I also wanted to say, like, you know, the initial reaction was just amazing, and I wanted to say thank you guys for that. If you haven't seen the game yet or haven't played it, you can go ahead and play it right now. It's on Game Jolt. But yeah, thank you so much. I would also like to thank Recreo, ironically enough. If I hadn't joined their animation team back in January, I probably wouldn't have been able to fund this, like, at all. I could have probably gotten the money myself, but the job you gave me really helped the cost sting that much less. You know, when you guys get done doing your mainline FNAF videos, I don't know, help you guys out with working on a FNAF fan game related video on a cool project called Into the Mid-Rift. I think that would be pretty cool. I'm sorry. Yeah, but in terms of cost, this was expensive. Like, really expensive to make. So if you want to support me, buy my merch, or you can find my Ko-Fi and everyone else's donation outlets in the Into the Mid-Rift Discord server. Again, everyone has been paid for their work on this project, but if you want to commission them or donate to their Patreon and stuff, this is the place to do so. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.